Hello, my Aquarius risings, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I am the Tarot Dragon, and on my channel, I like to do tarot readings whenever I feel called to do them. And in today's reading, we are going to be looking at what is coming next in love for you. So I first want to say that I love you very much because I have an Aquarius moon, and I love Aquarius risings a lot, like more than is necessary. So thank you so much for being here. And I hope that this reading resonates with you in some way or that you're able to take something away from it. But please remember that if it does not resonate, that's totally fine. And you can just discard those messages. Please don't try to force anything to fit into your life if it's not meant for you. If it's meant for you, you'll know immediately. There will not be any hesitation, I promise. And yeah, so we will just jump straight ahead into the reading. And we're going to begin by just looking at this card to see just a quick little look at your energy, how you're coming through at the time that you're finding this. And so this can help you get a better idea if this reading actually is for you. If this doesn't sound like you at all, then this probably isn't your reading. So for you, we have the Gambler. The light attribute is willingness to follow intuition even when others doubt you. The shadow is relying on luck rather than hard work. So first of all, color scheme, iconic with the green, love. So Aquarius risings at this time, or at the time that you're finding this reading, really, what I feel like is that this is a mask that you're wearing, is what I'm feeling. I think you put on a front, kind of, okay, not like in a malicious way, but I sort of feel it as this feeling of like, you pretend like you don't know what the hell's going on, but you know exactly what's happening. For some reason, I get Pisces energy from you too. So you might have prominent Pisces placements, but for some reason I wanted to say you might have a Pisces rising, even though you're an Aquarius rising, which makes me wonder if you have, how do I say, like maybe, for example, what am I trying to say here? You know how there's degrees of your, like maybe you might have Venus in Aquarius at like a couple degrees before it would then be Venus in Pisces, you know? I don't know if that made sense. Like you might have some planets that are really close to Pisces, but they're actually in Aries or something like that. Anyway, that's so specific. Regardless, what I feel for you is that you're going through life right now pretending to be a bit like of an airhead, like you don't really know what's going on, like you're just kind of going with the flow, but I actually feel like you know exactly what's going on. And I don't think that you, like, I don't feel it in the sense of like you have a 10-step plan, a 10-year plan, or I don't feel like, for example, within your career, you know exactly what's going on to a T, like you're super sure, you're super secure. Rather, it's coming through more as like in your average social interactions, you know, like when you're just kind of talking to people, you see people's true colors, but you act like you don't. And perhaps that's why, because even the Gambler, when we think about the Gambler, sometimes there can be a negative connotation there. But willingness to follow intuition, depending on who you're talking to, can be a great thing or a terrible thing. And so people might think that here's the thing is, I think for you, you're actually quite analytical. Like, I think that you read people very well. In an intuitive way, but two, I think you know things. You know when people talk about certain topics, what, like you sense that they're hiding X, Y, and Z, or you can tell when someone's lying, or you can tell when someone's exaggerating something, but you act like you might egg it on and be like, oh yeah, haha, like you're so funny, but deep down you're like, okay, this person's fucking lying to me, you know? Like, I think that, and I don't know why you're doing this, because part of me feels like it's almost like you do it in a playful way with yourself. Like you're not, I almost feel like you think it's funny, which it kind of is, that you can read people so well and they don't know. I think that's like, it's cool to read people and a really awesome skill. Well, depending on how you use it, I suppose, but basically I don't think that you're doing this to like, how do I explain it? Like, it doesn't seem like you have bad intentions when you are reading people. It's more like you just sort of feel that they're lying to you, and so you peep that and you're like, okay, cool, now I know, type of thing. I don't think that you're going out of your way to like ask people certain questions to see if they're gonna lie about it so you can use it against them. Like, it doesn't seem like that. It doesn't seem malicious. It just seems like when you're talking to people, you can tell how they act. You can tell who they are. Yeah. Okay, and now, if that sounds like you, then continue watching. If not, then You can keep watching if you want, but this might not be for you. I now want to see how you're going to be represented in this next phase of your love life. So for that, we have the mentor. The light attribute is passing on wisdom and refining a student's character. The shadow is inability to allow the student to move on to the role of master, imparting false instruction. This is really interesting. So it seems like in this next phase, you are opening up more about these gifts that you have, about your ability to read people. I think currently there's this feeling of like, you know when someone's lying, but you don't do much of that information besides just peep it for yourself. But perhaps in this next phase, you're more, I almost feel like you're giving out more constructive criticism. And what's cool is that I think it's being received very well. I think people, this kind of looks like peacock feathers to me, but I feel like people can sense that you're very confident and that you have, there's this feeling of people think that you're unbiased. Yeah, or non-judgmental. Perhaps that's the energy that's coming through. It's like people think that you, like they can tell that you're not trying to hurt their feelings when you tell them like, hey, blah 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 blah, like whatever you're telling them. They can tell that you're not saying things to hurt them. They can tell that you're saying things because you can sense the truth behind their statements, the truth behind their actions, and they're receiving your advice and your critique very well. And with mentor, this is a specific dynamic where typically we think about the mentor and the mentee as having a power difference. So I wonder if you are literally being someone's mentor, maybe you're a teacher, maybe you're a parent, maybe you're part of a program where you're a mentor and then you have mentees, that kind of thing. But I also kind of just sense this within your friend groups, like not friend groups, but friends, like your friends. I think you are becoming more outspoken about what you're sensing, and you're telling your friends like, hey, like, okay, the perfect example I can give is, let's say your friend is talking to you about let's say your friend is having problems with their partner, and usually when you hear your friend talking, you might in your mind be like, oh, interesting, they got upset when their partner did this, that must mean that my friend is insecure about X, Y, and Z, or something like that, right? Where you're like, oh, okay, interesting. Like they said this, so that must mean this. But you're not like fishing for information. You're just like noticing things and then just being like, okay, cool. Now I know. But in this next phase, you're more likely to be like, hey, friend, you're saying this, and I know that you're upset that they did X, Y, and Z. But I think X, Y, I think this, or I think that maybe you should focus on this instead, or I think maybe you should address this with them, or whatever it is, right? You're telling people the truth of what you're feeling, but you're doing it in a way that's very clear. But because there's this feeling of you being non-judgmental, or you being unbiased, or you being very like neutral, that's the word, you being very neutral about it makes people more receptive to what you're saying. And perhaps the neutrality comes from the fact that these are your friends, or that these are people that look up to you in some way because you're in a leadership position, like you're a mentor, a parent, teacher, etc. But I think that you're doing things from a good place, from a place of like, this is what I'm noticing, I'm just gonna let you know, do with it as you must, type of thing. This is very interesting. This is very unique compared to the other readings that I've been doing with this topic. So very interesting. So let's see what's happening next in your love life. What's changing? What is the context behind this mentor energy? So to start, wow, we have root girl, the disowned self. Wow, okay. We have the temple path. We have boundaries. Where do you need to establish better boundaries? And we have angel of time, working too hard. Interesting. I kind of want to flip these for some reason, even though I feel like the green makes more sense here. I can't really explain it, but I feel like they need to be here. So I'm sorry if the color scheme bothers you. Get over it. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I know it's annoying. You can't change it. I know. I'm sorry. Okay. This is really interesting. So this boundaries card is really speaking to me. And so is this root girl card. I think, so we're going to get a little personal here with what we're talking about. Because I think you have, like, maybe it's a subconscious thing. I don't know if you're aware of this. Maybe you are. Maybe you will become more aware in the future during this next phase of your love life. But I think you're recognizing that I just lost it. I lost what I was going to say. Oh my. I think you have a habit of falling into one of two extremes. On the one hand, I think that you sometimes will overgive to people by becoming overly invested in their lives and in their drama and in their experiences. You become maybe the therapist friend. Maybe you're somebody who, because you're neutral, because you can be unbiased, you give incredible advice or incredible perspective to people. And so I think sometimes you find yourself getting really wrapped up in what other people are going through, and you just keep pouring out to people. And on the other hand, you kind of are in this gambler energy where you're sensing all this stuff, but you're not really telling people what you're sensing. And so maybe you're noticing something that maybe your friend is completely ignoring or is unaware of. And if you spoke up about it, maybe it would really help them out. But because you know that it could quickly become this really boundaryless situation where you're just overly giving, you kind of keep it to yourself. And the reason why I say I don't know how much of this you're aware of is because it could be that like you at some point were this boundaryless person where you gave, and then you kind of became very closed off where now you just peep things but keep it to yourself. And I understand that, right? Because sometimes unsolicited advice can come off very harsh, or very unwanted. And also sometimes like people don't want to hear somebody disagree with them. Some people have a hard time taking constructive criticism, right? It is what it is. But I think for you, what's really at the core of all of this is the fact that I think there's a part of you that's afraid that by telling people that you don't have the space to hear them vent right now, or by you setting boundaries, or by you critiquing something that someone is doing, you feel like they are going to walk away from you, or that they are going to be angry at you, and you're afraid that it's going to trigger some like abandonment wound that you have. Because I think, you know what, this is the root girl card. It talks about like the parts of us that have been shamed, that have been hurt, that have been bullied, that have been teased, and those parts of us we shun away, we hide away. It could be certain emotions, right? So sometimes when people express happiness, sadness, joy, anger, whatever feeling it is, they could be punished for that or made to feel really bad for that. And so they stop feeling that emotion. They never express when they're angry. They never express when they're just uncomfortable. They just sort of, they don't speak up. They don't say anything, right? Or for others, maybe they're bullied about their physical appearance, or maybe they're bullied about or teased about like the way that they speak or whatever it might be, right? And so instead of like because this usually happens in our youth when we're young, we don't really have the psychological terms to help us work through that, or the coping mechanism sometimes, so we just sort of put it away into one area of our mind, and we don't think about it, and we try not to trigger that wound. And I think for you, there's some fear here where it's like you feel like you don't, like maybe one thing that you were teased about or bullied about was your sense of judgment, your sense of perception. Like maybe you were called stupid a lot growing up, or you were like made to think that you don't have anything valuable or useful or intelligent to say. And so the way that you dealt with that was like noticing things for yourself, and then like helping people when they needed your help, but then if they didn't ask for it, you would just like not tell anybody what you're noticing, what you're peeping. You kept it to yourself. And there's nothing wrong with noticing something and not speaking up about it, not telling somebody like, hey, are you lying to me right now, or whatever. Like if you would rather just notice it and then keep a boundary silently and not tell that person your personal business or whatever it is, if you would rather just set boundaries without directly addressing it, okay, like that's fine. But I think that what's happening in this next phase is you're really noticing how much or the kind of boundaries that you keep between you and other people, and what it's actually being triggered by. And what I think is interesting is like almost all of these readings have had nothing to do with like romantic love, which I think is really interesting. But for you, I don't know what kind of love I would call this. It is kind of self-love, but it's also like friendship kind of love. Interesting. I don't know why. Some of you might have your moon in your 10th house, like the moon in the 10th house. Or you might have some connection between your moon sign and your 10th house placement or something like that. But this is really interesting. But I wonder if, like, because you're like, if you are in a literal mentor position, or a position where there is a power difference between like you know how teachers have more power than the students do in the classroom, like the teacher is the authority figure or the parent is the authority figure, like that kind of thing. I wonder, and then in those contexts, usually like students look up to their teachers, kids look up to their parents, mentees will look up to their mentor. And when that happens, usually the mentee, the child, the student, they're like really, really interested in everything the teacher has to say, everything the parent has to say, everything the mentor has to say. There's almost this fascination with the authority figures or the leadership figures, intelligence and experience. And that could be also what's really weirding you out about this, or kind of making this like this weird place where you're like, whoa, I don't know what to do about this. Because it's like either the people that you're leading, for lack of better words, or if this is like a friend thing, your friends are looking to you as a source of wisdom. And that's like crazy to you, because you're like, what the heck, like you care about what I have to say? Because remember, like that part of you that used to like overly give, that's when people would ask you about it. But I think in general, I don't think you see yourself as very valuable in terms of insight, in terms of what you have to say to people. Like you kind of just think that you notice things, but it's like whatever, like I'll keep it to myself, no one else would care. But when people start to care about it, you're like, whoa, what the heck? And we have this card here too, I think is interesting. We have Angel of Time, working too hard, and then the Temple Path. And I think this is kind of just like a separate message. I don't know how it's weaving in necessarily yet, but there's this message here of like you're not on the wrong path. You're not doing anything wrong right now. I think you're exactly where you need to be. And in this next phase, you're exactly where you need to be. It might feel like you're moving backwards because maybe childhood wounds are being triggered. Maybe you're starting to feel like you're starting to doubt your intelligence, to doubt your wisdom. But you're not on the wrong path. What's happening is you're being triggered, which can help you heal if you lean into those triggers and you work through them. It will help you heal so that you can walk your path with more confidence and more self-assuredness. You're not running out of time. You're right on track. Like you're exactly where you need to be. The sun is not going to set on you yet. I don't know why I feel like I needed to say that. And it's also never too late to learn. Like, it's never too late to work on your self-confidence. It's never too late to start to believe in yourself and to believe in your intelligence. Like, you haven't missed out on anything yet. Well, perhaps you have, like, literal experiences. But what I feel like is so important for you to hear in terms of time, in terms of your path, in terms of like your life purpose, where you're supposed to be, you're exactly where you need to be. You know, it's called a life purpose for a reason. Like people don't always know what they're okay, so number 12, that's the sign of Pisces. 10 is Capricorn, 4 is Cancer. I was talking about Aquarius or Pisces before, but Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, they're back-to-back signs. So those 3 signs can be significant. And then Cancer is the opposite of Capricorn. But with the root, so this could be root chakra related, but I also want to say sacral because we have a lot of orange here, here, and on this card. So it's making me think of the sacral chakra. Yeah, I think that your life is going to become, I think you're going to be kind of shocked by how much people start to look up to you and how much people really value your insight and your wisdom. It's making me think of somebody who like wins an award and they're like, oh, what, me? Really? Like, you guys think I should get this award? Like, yes, you should get this award. Like, yes, you are smart. You are intelligent. And I think that you being able to not critique, like say, oh, you're stupid, you're making dumb decisions, not like that. You being able to tell your friends, tell your students, tell your kids, like, hey, perhaps this isn't how we should do things. Have you considered X, Y, and Z? Or I know you're doing the best that you can, and I'm really happy you made this choice for yourself. Like, you know, I support you if you do this thing, whatever. Like, you basically giving your 2 cents to people when they're asking for it. Like, I think that's going to help you strengthen your relationships as well. And it's going to show you that when you speak up to people, they're not going to necessarily walk away from you. You're going to be shown proof that setting boundaries does not mean ruining the relationship. And it's going to show you proof that you're not going to be abandoned by people who are meant to be in your life when you set a boundary, when you speak up, when you tell them that what they're doing is harmful or what they're doing is toxic. You're going to find that setting boundaries strengthens relationships, that having the harder conversations strengthens relationships. It's not going to leave you cold and alone. And you're also going to find, again, that people really value what you have to say, and it's helping you. It's almost like the blindfold you were wearing, like, not only were you, like, was the world blinded by the amount of intellect and wisdom and just wise things, like you're very wise, and the world wasn't able to see that because you kept it to yourself. But not only that, you also blinded yourself from how much you have to give. Like, you were unaware of just how profound you actually are. Yes, you would notice things and you would keep them to yourself and be like, okay, I know that person's lying. I'm just gonna, okay, now I know. I'm gonna be careful what I say to them. I'm gonna be careful, I'm not gonna believe their story. You just peep it to yourself, but you didn't take it that seriously. You didn't really think, oh, I'm so wise, I'm so this, I'm so that. And if you did, then I don't think this reading is for you, because this really is giving me the vibe of like the class clown, for example, or like a person who's there and who socializes a lot and has friends and does all the things, but they don't really think that their words are truly valuable. You were really like robbed of believing of your sense of like intelligence. I don't know who, maybe it was mentors in your own life, authority figures in your own life in the past, who really made you think that you're just like this silly person with nothing interesting or important to say, but that's not true at all. Like, you really are so smart, and not only book smart, you're wise. You have like wisdom within you to share. And probably because you've been through some serious shit. And I think the more that you integrate this disowned self with your self now, the more that you start to see those parts of you that were shamed as parts of you that are deserving of love and deserving of forgiveness and deserving of being expressed, the more that you're going to really blossom and grow. And in fact, this person's looking down and this person's blindfolded. You're going to be noticing how much of this disowned self was actually like pulling all the strings this entire time. Very interesting, very interesting. Let's get more with the tarot cards. Spirit, what's happening? What's happening that's triggering all of this? Like, what is happening that triggers this this experience for Aquarius risings in this next phase of their love life? Spirit, what is happening that's triggering all of this? I'm actually, yeah, we're gonna keep those cards there. What is happening that's triggering? No, I'm not. Hold on, guys. I'm sorry. I'm gonna put these back. I feel like this is the Neo Tarot, by the way. But Spirit, what is happening in the near future, or I guess whenever Aquarius risings are watching this? What's happening that's triggering this next phase of their love life? Why is this happening? We have the Three of Pentacles. Let's get one more, Spirit. Why is this happening? What is triggering all of this for Aquarius risings? The Five of Pentacles. Interesting. So what I think is happening here, and why I think this is happening at the time that it is because I think that you, either in your career, like I said before, right? Remember I said, like, you could be like a teacher, you could be a parent, or in a leadership position. That's being confirmed here with the Pentacles. I think there are relationships in your life where the people around you are kind of going through it. Like, they're really going through it, and they don't know how to get themselves out of this, like, really cold and lonely feeling that they're in. Like, I feel like, for example, maybe your students are really struggling with school, and they just cannot grasp the concepts that you're teaching to them. They just don't get it. Or maybe your kids are like really struggling with like your kids are not really listening to you when you're setting a boundary, when you're telling them like, hey, you shouldn't do this because it's dangerous, you shouldn't do this because you have homework to do or whatever. Or maybe it's your friends who are going through a breakup or going through financial difficulties. There are people in your life who are going through things, and they're looking to you for guidance. They're looking for your input. And this Three of Pentacles is fascinating because this kind of confirms what I said before about you being unbiased. I'm going to add on to that and also say that you give your 2 cents, but you also respect and value what the other person has to say. You're not the kind of person who says, hey, child, like, hey, like, to your kid, you're not going to be like, oh, you're stupid, you don't know what you're doing, like you're supposed to listen to me, I'm the adult. You're not the kind of parent who would say that. You're the kind of parent who hears their child out, even if your kid's like 5 years old and barely speaks the or I guess 5-year-olds speak usually. I don't know, I don't have kids, but like even if your 5-year-old can't fully explain their thoughts and their feelings, you still hear them out. You hear them out and you respect what they have to say, and you also share what you have to say, right? There's this feeling of you being a very gentle guide, of you being someone who is clear and who is non-judgmental with the people in their life, but you also don't put your opinion over theirs. You don't think that your perspective is more valuable than theirs. You see it as simply another tool for them, another perspective for them, and you make sure that they know, like, hey, I think you should do this, but if you don't, like, I'm still here. Like, I still support you. I'm still, like, you can do whatever you think is right for you, right? Because you really value the people in your life. You value their perspective. You value their own input, their own understanding of what they're going through. And that's also what makes people love you so much and see you as so wise. Because a wise person knows that yes, their perspective is valuable and useful, but so is the other person's. There's really no way to know like whose opinion is more worthy, especially if both are healthy options. It's like, okay, well, how do we decide, right? And you're the kind of person who's like, it's up to you to decide. It's your life, it's your situation. Here's what I think, but also I know that you think of this and you decide what's best for you, right? Like you're very respectful of other people's opinions on their life. And with the 5 of Pentacles in particular, I think this is really useful for the people in your life because you're affirming that they are going through something difficult. You're like affirming it for them. You're being like, I understand, like you're not gaslighting them and saying, oh, get over it, it's fine. Like you're really validating, like, yeah, this is a tricky situation, you know, like you're really, you know, you're struggling with school, you broke the glass vase, like I understand this is hard for you. Like you're very understanding of that, and you give them constructive advice. And I think that that's what's so useful. And the advice that you're giving is practical as well. It's not this like impractical, idealistic BS that's not going to really help them. You're giving people concrete steps, concrete things to do or to say, or concrete boundaries to set that can assist them. Like you're very, very understanding of people's situations. And I think the way that you understand the situation also helps you give advice that's useful. I feel like just chit-chatting away. Like I love this, and I can see why people love you. Like, yeah, you're a phenomenal friend, partner, leader, parent. You're awesome. Let's continue. So that's what's triggering all of this. So can I get more details about what's happening in this next phase for Aquarius rising spirit? What else? What else do you want to say that I haven't said yet about this next phase for Aquarius risings? You have the World. Okay, we have the World, we have the Hierophant, and we have the Chariot. So the Chariot. So first with the World, this is associated with the planet Saturn, which rules Aquarius, but also Capricorn. And then the Hierophant is Taurus energy, and the Chariot is associated with Cancer energy. So, okay. Back of the deck, we have the 5 of Swords. I'm not taking that, though. I just wanted to tell you. I don't know why I had to... sorry, just ignore that. Okay. So more details for you. Well, the first thing I noticed is that these dogs, I think they are the same color. Typically, in the Chariot, one animal, horse, sphinx, whatever, is a darker color, usually black, and the other one will be a lighter color, usually white. But usually they're like they're different colors and like opposite colors. But here they're the same color, this like grayish, whitish, beige color, which is really fascinating. But then the person's wearing all black. And so is the Hierophant. Okay, the World, the Hierophant, and the Chariot. Yeah, you definitely have power here for some reason, or over like within this connection or these connections with these people. It could be, but when you're in these connections, you bring yourself down, not in the sense of like, you know, kind of shit talking yourself or being self-deprecating or, you know, saying negative things about yourself so that like you seem more relatable, not like that, but rather you don't let like whatever power you have get to your head, you know. It's like that thing I said earlier, you know, those parents who say, oh, I'm the parent, you need to listen to me, I don't care what you have to say. You're not that kind of parent. Like you recognize, yeah, you are the authority figure. You do have the responsibility to protect your children. However, you still value what your kids have to say. And the same is true if you're a teacher. The same is true if you are some sort of mentor or leader. There's this feeling of, you know, that you have power. You know that you have a lot of, maybe like for some reason, like a platform in some way. It could, this is making me think of like public speaking platforms. So maybe you post things online, maybe this could simply be talking about the fact that you are an authority, but there's almost this feeling of like, or it could be something like talking in front of a classroom. It's like the eyes are on you, the focus is on you. In these connections, you are definitely the one who has the power, and people look up to you. Like I said, like people really do. They see you as wise as hell, like very wise. But when you're with them, it's like you see the people you're with as equals, and they feel that energy from you. But what is the most fascinating about all of this is that I think part of this is like, I think you're healing that you know, the root girl card that we were looking at, where it talks about the disowned self, the part of you that was shunned away, that was isolated. You're bringing this part back to you by speaking up, by using your voice, because that's the thing that was shamed. And being in a role, like an authority role or a leadership role, is profound when you have experienced constant attacks on your intelligence, constant attacks on your wisdom, when you've been told, oh, like you have nothing important to say, you're just a kid, you're just this, you're just that. When you are in an authority role, it's amplifying whatever kind of whatever like shame you have around your intelligence, because it takes intelligence and some sort of confidence to be in a position like that, because you're really putting yourself out there for criticism. And I think that what's helping you stay grounded amidst all of this, one, it's your values that you have, like as a person, but I think it's also, there's this feeling of like, I know how it feels. Because every time I thought about that parent-child dynamic or teacher-student dynamic, I kept thinking of like you being the child and being yelled at by a parent, you being a student and your teachers not understanding your perspective, not caring about what's going on at home, not caring about the fact that you're struggling in school. They just feel like you need to do things the same way as everybody else. I don't care if you're struggling. Like, you know what it's like to be on the opposite end of that. And so that informs your response to the people around you now, because you've been there. And I think that's why it's healing that disowned self, because by you giving the people the time of day, by you hearing them out, by you giving advice, but also respecting their own perspective, it's almost like you're looking at that wounded part of you and being like, okay, I hear your perspective. It's valid. I understand that. You are more informed about your life than I could ever be. And also, here's what I think. Here's what you want my advice. Here's my advice, you know, but you do what's best for you, and I'll be there for you throughout this entire process, right? It's like you're healing yourself by being with others, by healing others. Well, not by healing others, but by assisting others in their own healing. And it's awesome because you have like what you're doing is only making you more wise, and especially making people see just how wise you are and just how profound the things you have to say are. Like, you really speak to people. Now I'm thinking about generational gaps, right? I'm thinking about how like it like Gen Z is currently like, and Gen A, I think, is currently like in middle school, high school, undergrad for the most part, and the teachers typically aren't Gen Z. But it's like, even if you're a millennial or if you are Gen X or whatever the hell it is, I don't know the other ones, you are able to connect with younger generations because you are valuing what they have to say. Like, like from the bottom of your heart, really care and really value what people say and perceive about their own experience. But you also can see them so clearly that you recognize like, oh, there's a perspective and a side that this person isn't seeing. Does that make sense? This is really interesting that this is coming through in a love reading, though, because again, it's sort of like not the message I was expecting. Probably not what you were expecting either, but if it's resonating, that's what matters. But okay, Spirit, is there anything else you want to say before I move on to the final card for advice? Is there any other detail or thing you want to add to this message for what's coming next for Aquarius risings in love before I move on? Anything else you want to mention? The King of Pentacles. Yeah, okay. Don't let your power get to your head is one thing. With this Two of Wands in the back of the deck, it's important that you don't allow this, like this power, this sudden interest that people are taking in you. It's important that you don't let this get to your head, and that you remember that you are, like, you know, that this kind of humble feeling that you have, humble in the sense of like, you know that you're smart, you know that you're wise, but you also value everyone else's perspective about their own situations. That mindset is really important, and it's really going to help you connect with people more deeply and help you understand yourself and your own pain more. And with this King of Pentacles, it's important that you don't let this sudden power get to your head. Either the power that people are giving you, where there's not giving you, but whether what we're talking about is the fact that people are now seeing your wisdom and seeing your really profound, like, advice that you give to them, or whether we're talking about the actual literal power that you have, for example, by being a parent, by being a teacher, by being a mentor. Don't let that power get to your head, okay? Because it's there, and when you have the power and then people really respect you for it and really value you and love you for it, it has the potential to get to your head, or there's this potential to get too comfortable and to no longer put as much intention or care into what you're doing. And it's important that you, with this moon in the background, like, always remember that your intuition is still really important, and that the power that you are feeling now from this experience is amazing, right? Because it's empowering you and it's showing you the beautiful skills that you've always had. And also know that, like, even if people don't see your wisdom as valuable, or if people don't see your wisdom at all, that does not mean that you are no longer this King of Pentacles. Does that make sense? Like, you are valuable, you are intelligent, regardless of whether people see it or not. And likewise, this could also be a message to know your place, to know your role, because now I'm thinking about the King of Pentacles. When I gave the analogy, or I guess the example of, like, a person who has the power, like, for example, a teacher, and then also they're very beloved or respected for it, for example, by being, like, everybody's favorite teacher. Sometimes the lines between, like, being firm and serious and then being the fun teacher gets blurred, right? Or if we're talking about a parent, sometimes parents get confused, or the line blurs between the parent just being the friend or the parent being the parent, right? And so it's like finding that line, like being kind and considerate and understanding of people's situations is an excellent skill. But it also doesn't mean that you have to neglect your responsibility as a leader, your responsibility as a parent, as a teacher, right? So for example, if your child really wants to eat, I don't know, if your kid is breaking vases on purpose, hear them out and understand what's going on, because maybe it's a temper tantrum, maybe they don't understand that glass is sharp, or whatever it might be, right? Hear them out, understand what's going on, but also remember that you still are the parent, right? And so, like, even if your kid is like, I want to do it, it's fun, like, you have to draw that line and be like, nope, this isn't happening. I get it, I know you want to do it, but why don't we play with Play-Doh instead? I don't know. And I think, you know, like, if you are a parent, in my mind, I'm imagining like a kindergartner, a first grader, that kind of age range. You know, if you're a parent, you know your kids better than I ever could. I don't know your kids, but if you're a teacher, you know your role better than I do as well. But in general, one thing that I'm seeing is, like, make sure that line between your responsibility versus your relationships does not get blurred. Okay. And then we're going to finish off now with a piece of advice for you about this next phase regarding love. So, Spirit, for Aquarius risings, can I get a card to represent a piece of advice for them regarding their love life? Can I get a card of advice for Aquarius risings regarding this next phase in their love life? We have a writer with words. Interesting. So for some of you, I think venting remember when I said that I talked about how okay, basically, okay, oh my, oh wow, again all over the place. I think that for you, you receive a lot of emotions from a lot of people a lot of the time. Um, if your friends are going through something and they're venting to you about it, that venting can sometimes get to you, right? It gets a little heavy. If you're a teacher, being around students so often, or if you're a parent, being around very energetic children all the time, it can be exhausting, right? And so I feel like writing, journaling, typing, whatever, some sort of communicative documents, whatever, that would be an excellent form of release for you, a form of getting out those pent up emotions, right? It's making me think, I don't know what you do for a living, but I'm thinking of like, how like if you're an attorney, you have privilege with your client where, whatever is disclosed between you and the client is kept confidential. You can't be forced to tell, like, speak up about what was talked about during a trial or something. Like, that's private information. It can be kept completely confidential for the most part. It's making me think of that dynamic, but like in the ethical sense, where, for example, maybe you don't feel comfortable talking to your partner about like how, like, what your student is going through, but what your student is going through is really stressing you out, and it's really causing you a lot. It's on your mind a lot. So maybe a way that you can get that out is by journaling, because then it's not like crossing like an ethical boundary that you have, but it's also allowing you to get those emotions out. Or perhaps, maybe your child is really maybe throwing a lot of tantrums and expressing their feelings in very physical ways or very verbal ways, and you love that for them. Like, great that they're expressing how they feel, but it's a lot for you, but you don't really know if you want to share this with somebody else. Perhaps again, journaling might be a good outlet for you. But I also think too, I don't know if it was you who maybe it wasn't you, maybe it was the Gemini rising reading. But yeah, never mind. I think it was the other reading, but I'll say it again too. Reading could also be useful for you. Reading, like, stories, not self-help, not nonfiction, but stories, and allowing yourself to get lost in those words a little bit. But I also want to read the message in this book because, yeah, and also I feel called to say too, like, writers, like, stop. Okay, let other people say no to you. Let other people say that they don't want your advice. Don't assume that people don't want to hear what you have to say, right? For example, how else I can need to say that in a more clear way. Like, speak your truth. Say the things you need to say. Because I think by nature, by who you are as a person, by your fundamental, like, beautiful values, you don't want to hurt people with your words. You don't want to abuse your power. You want to be a guiding presence for people. You want to be kind and considerate toward people. But I think you so often invalidate what you have to say, and you so often think that what you have to offer is not significant or important, and it is. And I think this writer card, one thing that is really wanting you to consider is, like, how are you silencing yourself, or how are you isolating yourself by not speaking up about what's on your mind? Because isolation is not just physical. Have you ever received the silent treatment from somebody? That feels so isolating when they're not talking to you, especially the silent treatment from a family member. You see them all the time at home, but they're not talking to you. That makes you feel isolated mentally and emotionally, but physically you're right there, right? So think about, how are you pulling yourself back, detaching yourself from others by not speaking your truth? Your advice at this time is to assume that you are wise because you are. Assume that you are smart because you are. Assume that you have important things to say because you do. And it's kind of like how the approach that you're taking with relationships in this next phase, where it's like you're offering your advice, but you're also reminding your friends, your partner, your kids that they don't have to take your advice. Like, that's your perspective and they don't have to agree with it. But Spirit's saying, don't assume that they automatically won't agree with it. Say what you need to say, and if they don't agree, they don't agree, right? But don't tell yourself no. Don't shut yourself down before you even have the chance to express it. But let's see what we have to say here. We're gonna read this message. Interesting. This is the last message, or the last card in the deck. Keep it simple and don't fall in love with your words. You have a tendency to complicate your verbal and written expressions with too many words, with the net effect of clouding what you're trying to communicate. Sort through them to find the most precise phrase for what you're trying to convey. Be patient and trust that by paying attention and relaxing what you want to write. Oh, wait. Be patient and trust that by paying attention and relaxing, what you want to write will come naturally. Take risks too, such as expressing yourself through poetry, short stories, and anecdotes. Experiment with different styles. You'll no doubt find some interesting and creative expressions. Try spending the first few minutes of each day writing in your journal, preferably by hand, and don't edit or censor yourself as you go. Notice how taking just a short time for yourself to reflect, imagine, and discover your intentions affects you over the days and weeks ahead. Yeah, use writing and communication as a tool for yourself to vent, to process, and also as a way to almost like reclaim your power, right? Because a lot of, I think, of what was disowned within yourself with that root girl card, a lot of this has to do with your intellect, your wisdom, what you have to say. And so by speaking that, by really valuing what you have to say, by expressing it, you're reclaiming this part of you, and you're really integrating that within yourself. So Aquarius risings, I am going to leave your reading here. Thank you so much for watching this reading all the way through if you did, and I really hope that you found something here that resonated with you and that you could take with you along on your journey. If you enjoyed this reading and you want to support me or my channel, I would love if you could like this video, if you could subscribe to my channel, or if you could leave a comment down below telling me how it resonated. I really love to hear how my readings resonate with people, because it kind of gives me an idea of like what readings people actually enjoy or what I need to improve on. So please let me know down below. I'd love to hear from you. And other than that, thank you again for being here. I hope to see you again here soon, and I hope that you have a wonderful day or night or afternoon whenever you're watching this. And yeah, bye.